Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited to have another amazing guest on our Desk Careers Spotlight series. Today, we are going to be speaking with George Howard. She's a chartered financial planner working at the Fry Group here in the Middle East. Welcome, George. It's so exciting to have you with us today.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's always great to have the Fry Group join us, and you've offered us so many opportunities. I'm really excited to continue working together this year for our students and, of course, our community. Today's really about you, George, and it's about your career journey. We want to be sharing the story behind George Howard and how she became who she is today, because these career stories help our students to understand the journey as opposed to the destination of the job role that they wish to have one day. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go all the way back to those younger years when you were probably around 16 years old. I know that you were always interested in the world of banking, and you knew that you wanted to do that from a young age. But can you remember being 16? Because it's that prominent stage in a young person's life where the future is this exciting and daunting place, and making those big choices feels like it's either right or it's going to be wrong. And it always feels a lot larger than it is in context of real things. What was it like for you to be a 16-year-old George?
I've got to be honest, I didn't enjoy being 16. When I look back now, my mum was really strict, so I always had to be home early for school, and then when I left school at 16, I had to be home from work and go to bed early because I had work the next day. So actually, I left home at 16 and started work at 16. So I wanted to be independent. I enjoyed having my own money and not relying on anybody else. And for me, that was super important. So I was very lucky because I knew what I wanted to do. I'd always wanted to get into banking. I used to play with my mum's checkbooks when I was really young, and then I went to work experience with 2 companies, and for me that was the catalyst and made me realise that absolutely that was what I wanted to do.
Who would you say was your role model? Who brought you into the love of banking and finance at such a young age?
I don't know. I actually don't think there was any one particular person. The work ethic probably came from my mum. My mum was a single mum and brought 3 of us up. And my brother and sister are older than me, so they were the same in terms of what they were doing, and working hard, left home at a young age. So I guess they were probably more my role models, although my sister didn't go into finance until later.
Talk to us about Lloyds and Barclay and working. I know you did work experience with them when you were younger. What was that like, being in that world and seeing, oh my goodness, this is what I want to be doing. I definitely want to be in this world. But knowing that you were not going to go the academic pathway that most young people would go at that age, what was it like to be in the finance world at that time?
So, do you know what? It was really scary because I can remember my first day of work experience and I had no idea of what to expect. I didn't really know what to wear. So my mum took me out shopping, and actually my gran as well, to get some suits and some appropriate outfits. And I can remember I had a horrible, that anxious feeling in my tummy when I was going there. And then as soon as I got there, everyone was just so welcoming and so lovely. And I can remember the first thing they did was to get me a cup of tea, and I was like, great, I'm allowed to drink tea. And I know it sounds really silly, but I just thought, I didn't know what to expect. And when you don't know what to expect, it's quite unusual. So yeah, and then at the end of my first day, I just couldn't wait to go back again because I was learning so much and seeing the clients. So the clients were coming into the cashiers and having a good old chat with people, because I worked outside of London. So people were more friendly. They didn't just come in and do a transaction. It would be about how their day was, what they were going to do. And it was more than just the or paying a check-in or paying cash in from a business. There was so much more to it, and I learned that really quickly, and that really made me realize that that was what I wanted to do.
What about today? What's changed in that world? So here you are, you know, you're not 16 anymore, and you must have a new insight into this world. For any young person thinking about starting this career journey, what is different today that maybe was a little bit easier at your time, or maybe it's a little bit easier now? What is different?
So I would say it's probably easier now because you've got Google and you've got the World Wide Net, haven't you? So you can YouTube things, you can see so many things, you can get a feel for things, you can ask Google anything, whereas at that time you couldn't. So I remember thinking, I'm only 16, I've got the rest of my life ahead of me, I'm making a decision that this is the career that I want to do. And for me, it worked out perfectly, and I love what I do. And what I say is, you've just got to put yourself out there, try different things, and find the thing that you really love. That's one of the key takeaways for me, is that I'm very lucky that I love what I do. I help clients. And in one family, I look after 3 generations, and the grandchildren are, late teens. So I can actually talk to them and educate them about finances. So, I get a lot of pleasure from doing that. But other people may not enjoy interaction with people. They may just like to get a job done. So within different companies, there are so many different job roles that you can do. So I'm sure we're going to come on to that. But yeah, I love the interaction with clients, and I knew early on that's what I wanted to be involved with. And that's how I took my route through the bank.
So what's it really like to be a chartered financial planner? Like, take us behind the scenes, a typical day for you. What would that look like?
So a typical day for me is we get inquiries coming in at the moment. Unfortunately, lots of people are having to leave Dubai because they've been made redundant. So lots of people want to understand the tax implications back in the UK when they return to the UK. So we have a lot of inquiries on tax. At the Fry Group, we give advice on tax to clients, anything to do with UK tax. We write wills and do estates planning and administer estates when the time comes. And then we have the wealth management arm, which is where I sit. But there is a big crossover with all of those 3 things for clients. So we get lots of people inquiring about returning to the UK. I take on the initial call. So if I get an email saying, please contact this client, I try and do so very, very quickly. And then I will understand what the client's wanting to get. So it might just be, am I going to be taxed in the UK when I return immediately? Or the earnings that I've earned here in Dubai, will they be taxed, for example? I gather the questions and the information that I know our tax advisors need, and then we do a call together and we schedule that for another time with the clients. Then perhaps there might be something that comes from that for myself. So clients have policies where they've been paying into them or saving for retirement back in the UK and a pension. And I basically look at clients' investments and talk through how they can best be used going forward and to maximise the growth, etc., going forward. So I would then talk to the client about their short, medium and long-term goals and how they're going to achieve them. And then I would then put together some recommendations that will actually fulfill their goals for their whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So it could be education, planning for their children and making sure they've got enough money to put their children through private school. It could be that they're getting older and they want to pass their wealth down to their children, but they don't want to pay UK inheritance tax. There's all sorts of things and reasons that clients come to me to talk to me, and sometimes it's just literally to save because they're not saving anything at the moment and cash doesn't earn very much interest. So a whole range of things.
So not only are you helping to give them tips on how to manage their money, you're also doing a lot of behind the scenes research and then a lot of educating clients as well. So there's quite a number of different transferable skills that are required of you, what would you say would be those key transferable skills? So I heard communication skills again and again and again, being able to communicate to the client. I heard research and analysis in making sure that you're not just giving clients advice, but it's actually solid advice, that, you know, trustworthy, factual advice that you're going to be giving them. What other skills that, if there are, that would really stand out that a young person should start thinking about developing before they become part of this world?
So I would say, you know, within companies, there's lots of different roles. So although you might like economics and maths, for example, you may not be naturally outgoing and be happy to strike up conversations with strangers, for example, or conversely, you might really enjoy doing that. So it's trying to think of what role would suit you the best. I love talking to people, and I also love listening. And for my job, you know, the first meeting, generally, I do a bit of talking at the beginning to explain who I am and my background. And then most of the times I'm asking open questions to the clients to understand their situation, what they want to achieve, and I sit and listen and take notes. Some people are not naturally like that, so you might be more suited to doing an administration role, or maybe working in compliance, or maybe working in HR. You know, are you analytical kind of person where you love taking all that information in and then making it, analysing it and working out what the results are? So it's trying to think about what really ticks the box for you. What are you interested in? And it might not be related to work. It could be related to something completely separate. Like I said, I like talking to people, so I know that I need to be client facing. It could be, I don't know, there are so many different things, aren't there? You really love sports, so you want to be a PE teacher, for example. It's matching what you're interested in. That's the key. You have to be interested in what you want to do, because you need to love your job.
Fantastic. And I know that your top 3 tips are, you know, you spend a lot of time at work, so it's important to really enjoy it. I've heard you say this in telling us about your journey, this, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I really like listening. I enjoy talking to clients. And you also said previously that, you know, it's important to, well, you said to me when we were off camera that it's important to really have a good work-life balance, because we do spend a lot of time at work. So make sure that there's a good balance. And then another tip you said to me was that it's important to really get on well with colleagues. And I think all 3 of these tips are really, really valid tips, because we spend so much time at work. But sometimes it's easier to say to do these things than it really is to do in practice. What have you found your go-to actions that remind you to keep to these top 3 tips?
So it's interesting actually, because when I was looking for a job here in Dubai, I've only been here since December. I've always worked in an environment that's very compliant and obviously has lots of regulations in the UK. And here in Dubai, there are not so many regulations. So when I was looking for the job, it was important to me that the ethics of the company were aligned with my ethics, because there's nothing worse than being put in a situation in the work environment where you're being asked to do something that you don't personally believe in. I'm not saying that you're always going to have that, but for me, that was really important. So when I started to understand that financial advisors here are not the same as the UK, that they're not actually necessarily looking at what's right for their client, they're looking at money and how much it's going to earn them, that was a huge shock to me. And I was probably naive to that because I hadn't seen it. But to me, you know, your job, my nephew says to me, Auntie George, what job's going to earn me the most money? And I said to him, it's not about how much money it's going to earn you. It's super important that you love what you do, because you're going to be there at least 8 hours a day. And if you're asked to work later, you don't want to be pulling a face going, oh, but I want to go out with my friends drinking tonight. You know, it's it's having that balance. And then there'll be times when you say, actually, I need to leave early because it's my boyfriend's birthday. I really want to get home. Can I leave early? It's all about being flexible. And when you enjoy your job, you don't mind working the hours, you don't notice them. When you hate your job and you're not enjoying it, I can tell you the day is the longest day ever. So, when you're interviewing, it gives you an idea. Most companies will want you to meet lots of different people as part of the interview process. And that's a two-way thing. They're trying to understand if you're going to fit into their culture and get on with like-minded people. It's your chance to think exactly the same. It is about both parties wanting to work with each other. It's not just, oh, I just need a job, I want to get a job. There is that if you haven't got any money, of course there is. But it's all about really understanding, can I see myself working there? And when I came to the Fry Group, my interview process last year, I stepped in, I met my boss, Stuart McCulloch, and I immediately knew this was where I wanted to work. I could see myself working at the desk. I'd literally picked out my desk already. I just visualized it, I could see it. And when I started to meet other people in the team, I was like, yes, you are the company I want to work with. And compared with the other companies, there was no comparison. And so I moved heaven and earth to work for the Fry Group because I knew it was right for me. And that's what you've got to do, go for it.
That is so on point. In my conversations with professionals across industries, it always does come back to that alignment of core values and organization values. That really is the key to career fulfillment and career happiness as well, I think, for the individual. I could ask you so many questions, but I'm going to narrow in on just one topic that I feel very passionate about on a personal and professional level. And it's those young girls out there really wanting to join the world of finance. We know that it's a male-dominated industry. We know that predominantly males tend to go into occupations that are finance-based and based on working with people's money and investments. Would you say that's still true in this time?
It definitely is. I've always worked in a male-dominated environment, but if you think about where I came from, so I started working at Lloyd's, and I worked for Lloyd's for 24 years. And in banking, it's probably a mix of male and female, probably evenly split. And then when I looked at my manager, I used to have to knock on the door, and Mr. Burns, I used to call him. I used to go in and say, Mr. Burns, can I, it was a massive thing. There was this massive respect, and they had lunch in their room, and it's a very different environment to what it is now. No kind of open plan offices in those days. And it's just different, I think. So whereas where I then veered into being a financial advisor, so I qualified in 94, I think I was one of 2 females out of 100 male advisors. And I didn't have to do anything different. And I found it really easy talking to clients, and I was up there top of the leaderboard. That was important to me. I'm quite competitive naturally. So I think those are attributes to being a salesperson. And then as things are progressing, I'd say that even now, probably less than 25% of advisors are females. So there is a super place for females. I had a client the other day that I moved forward to become a client here at the Fry Group, and she said to me, George, it's so lovely to speak to another female. I feel that I can talk to you and I can ask the questions that I probably wouldn't ask a male because I'd feel really silly. But I'd said to her at the beginning of our meetings, listen, there's loads of questions you're going to want to ask, and I want you to feel free to ask them regardless of how silly you think they are, because I do this for a living. Of course, I know what I'm doing, but you don't. This is new to you. So I think I can relate to people in a slightly different way as a female. And as a female, you can do whatever you want now. The world has changed so much. So go for it. Go for what you really love doing.
Amazing. George, thank you so much. It's just been amazing. How can we find the Fry here in Dubai?
So you can Google us, the Fry Group, and then we have a fabulous website. We're just revamping it at the moment, but there's lots of free information on there if you want to know about returning to the UK, inheritance tax, retirement planning, or even if you just want to get a second opinion on what you're doing, we'd be delighted to help.
Super, thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of another amazing spotlight. Today, we had a wonderful conversation with George Howard from the Fry Group here in Dubai. She is a chartered financial planner and a wonderful educator, very passionate about empowering the youth and working together with Desk Careers to make sure that young people are aware of what the world of work looks like, of course, in the financial world. Thank you so much, George, and thank you everybody for watching us. I'll see you all at the next
Thank you very much.
Desk Careers Spotlight.